Tell your friends, tell your family, tune in to TEF1 on the internet, the interwebs. Head on over to TEF1, post it on your Instagram. Let's get the word out so we can get some more subscribers and some more people viewing PEV racing here at K1 Circuit, TEF1.
All right, go for it. Go for it.
All right, folks, buckle up. You're tuned in to the Electronic Force One TEF1 live from sunny Winchester, California. I'm your host, Seth Johnson, and I am here with the one and only Brett Brownlee. We're thrilled to be bringing you one of the most electrifying events of the year.
That's right, Seth, but this just isn't any race. This is the Electronic Force One, aka TEF1. TEF1 is a groundbreaking personal electric vehicle racing series put on by TEF1, and they are dedicated to pushing the limits of PEV racing. So thank you for joining us to watch the history being made here today as TEF1 debuts their first high-speed race in the United States.
That's right, Brett. This Rocky Moran designed track is a 1.1-mile course. That's a long course. With featuring 40 feet of elevation change, downhill sweeping S's, and a 14-degree banked corner. We'll likely see speeds never achieved before in PEV racing, well in excess of 60 miles per hour. Amped Electric Games is stoked to be bringing you this live commentary from TEF1 at the K1 Circuit, Southern California's premier outdoor go-kart track.
Now let's not forget about our broadcast sponsor, Lazy Rolling. They're keeping us safe, comfortable, and stylish out on the streets, but also on the track. So if you're looking for something protective, something that looks nice, some styling body armor, get armored at lazyrolling.com.
Get armored. I love that. Now let's talk about the action we have lined up for you today. First off, we have the Elite EUC Pro Class, where the world's best electric unicycle riders will once again be pushing the limits.
We also have the EUC Women's Pro Class. That's going to be showcasing some incredible speed, agility, and determination from the women's division.
And last but not least, the E-Skate Pro Class, where some of the fastest electric skateboarders in the world will be navigating the racetrack at speeds in excess of, my notes say 50 miles an hour, but I've heard from the racers 60 miles per hour.
It's getting pretty crazy out there, Seth. I don't know about you, but I couldn't be more excited to watch these racers compete on this track today.
I'm with you, Brett. I've got an entire seat beneath me, but I think I'll only use the edge today. Let's talk a little bit about the track and the track conditions, Brett.
Yeah, it's something that we've been talking about a lot as the weather has been progressing here today. Now we're seeing a little bit of cloud cover, which is going to add a couple things in to the equation when it comes to temperature. The temperature right now is sitting about, what, a mid-60s or so,
Yep.
Seth? And the wind is starting to subtly pick up, but it's really not that bad so far. So it's feeling pretty good out there, Seth.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, we have a little cloud cover coming in, so I think that may reduce the glare a little bit out here as well. But I think the star of the show is the track here today.
Absolutely. Can you see that track out on the, like, when you see it later today, you're going to be like, wow, like, look at that on your screen right now. What a beautiful track, a beautiful venue here in Winchester, California, the K1 Circuit. TEF1 made a great choice for this track.
That's right, Brett. This track is amazing. We have some really incredible long straightaways where we will see those high speeds and potentially a cutout or two.
It happens. But you know what? It sounds like we've got a great day of racing ahead of us. The riders from each class have been warming up and familiarizing themselves with the racetrack. But before we get started with the races, let's just give some love out there to Lazy Rolling. Just a little bit of extra love. They've made this possible today, coming all the way from Sweden. So if you see Robin hanging around the venue here today, that is the person that has made that possible. So shout out to Lazy Rolling.
That's right. The race coverage is sponsored by Lazy Rolling. Get armored by Lazy Rolling. with commentary provided by the Amped Electric Games, the voice of electric sports.
All right, so we are getting ready to get into the races now, and we are going to have some of our first racers lining up to stage themselves to get ready to race, Seth.
I believe we're going to see the E-Skate Pro Racers first, the E-Skate Pro Racers. What's pretty amazing is that we also have some of these racers that do dual sport. So you'll see them now, and you may see them later in the EUC Pro classes as well.
Yeah, a lot of these riders are multifaceted, and not even that. They'll even transition from one PEV to another, starting on, say, an E-Skate, and then eventually making their way over to an EUC on the track. We have one or two of those here today.
That's right, and we would like to call the E-Skate Racers up to the track, please. E-Skate Racers, it is time for Heat 1 from TEF1 and the K1 circuit track. Let's hear it for these racers out here. So first we will see the E-Skate track. Now these E-skateboards, these aren't the type of E-skateboards that I remember being a kid, right?
Oh, not at all. What you're going to find out here on this track today is what we call a race board, something that is made specifically to be racing on the track. And what they need is some crazy and insane stability next to that torque. As we know, some of these e-skates, as they make their way off the line, keep an eye on that start line as they make their way. You might see some front ends popping up.
All right, E-Skate riders, head on up to the track. The E-Skate Pro class is starting next. One thing that's pretty amazing about these boards is some of them have motors on each of the wheels as well, right?
Yeah, you have options for these like crazy. Stooge Race Boards, which is here today, they've come out with a board with a singular motor on it that's driving both of the back wheels. So that's pretty cool, and you see a lot of four-wheel drive boards out there as well. I don't know if we're going to see any of those out here today. Maybe we will. But some of these boards, they are quite crazy. Nothing that you've seen even 2-3 years ago. The innovation is just taking off.
Yeah, the thoughts of going 60+ mile an hour on a skateboard, I think I'll leave that to the professionals out here. But you did mention Stooge Raceboard, and we want to give a big shout out to Mo from Stooge Raceboard. He is a friend of Amped Electric Games, and we just really appreciate everything that he does to push this sport forward.
Yeah, there's been a lot of effort put in over the past few years that has really brought this sport into the limelight. And now we're seeing a lot of these other organizations getting involved, but a lot of those people who started these grassroots movements, you're finding them here today, and they'll be on the track as well. So we'll be talking about some of those people later on who have made certain opportunities possible for people like Intro to Speed. And yeah, we'll be able to see them on the track.
E-Skate. Tucker Mario, head on up to the track. E-Skate, right now, head on up to the track to begin the E-Skate Pro Class Heats. So we are jumping in here. We've had some qualifying races that have happened earlier today. Each of the different classes, they had open track time, they had some qualification times, and the folks at home, you are jumping in right when the action begins. This is when the competition begins, where those qualification times have been used to create these heats.
Just to make that very obvious for the viewers back at home, you're jumping in almost halfway through the day. At the beginning of the day, all of these racers at most competitions, they have open track time where they get to familiarize themselves with the track and understand where the turns are, where to brake, where to accelerate. And then they made their way into qualifying, which we just had the opportunity to watch here just recently, seeing some of these racers individually make their way through this track. That was very fun, but soon we're going to be getting to some races where they won't be individual, and they will be side by side going through these areas.
It's all about finding that line, you know, around this track. These turns are tight. We've got a couple of hairpin turns as well as these straightaways and these S-turns. But just to give the folks at home a little idea of what types of speeds these guys are going, and gals. We have Jack Farah, who put in a qualification time of 1 minute 24 seconds. Second up was Mario Chacon with a qualification time of 1 minute 32 seconds. And Tucker Johnson with a qualification time of 1 minute and 33 seconds.
Now, if you're with these racers on that track, that you may not, at home may not get a great perspective, but you can see on your screen there how long this track is, and they're doing it how fast? In 1.5 minutes? So these racers, they're really pushing the limits here today, and we couldn't be more excited to be watching them go through these straights, through these hairpins, through these corners, and in a fashion we're not really used to.
And once again, this stream would not be possible without the support of Lazy Rolling. Head on over to lazyrolling.com and get armored.
So this weather isn't too bad right now. The sun maybe want to peeking through in a couple of those spots there, but it's kind of holding back. Wouldn't you say, Seth?
Yeah, we've got a partly cloudy skies here, which is getting the glare down a little bit. You know, we had a little wind a little bit earlier, but that's lightened up. The wind can definitely be a factor when you're on these devices because I have seen it just blow somebody right off the course.
Yeah, and I would really like to speak to some of the racers today to figure out which part of the tracks are actually the most windy. So I'm sure there's part of this track further on where the elevation, because the elevation on this track is quite different from the start-finish line up to the back of the track. And I wonder if there's some wind hitting some of those back corners even. That's something to think about. It's not a short track.
Yeah, it's not a short track. This is going to be more of a marathon than a sprint today, I think, Brett. With, 1.1 miles of track, this is one of the longest tracks we have ever had the pleasure of commentating.
Yeah, and I believe the final races, they're going to be up to 5 laps. That is a lot of laps for these racers to be making their way around, and I bet you at the end of it, you're going to see some huffing and puffing, some energy, and some exhaustion, that's for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the racers that we have on the track today. First off, we have Reggie Thomas, Eastgate Pro Racer. He's from San Diego, and he has been in over 10 races.
This man has made his way to several competitions, this year making quite the impact on Electrify Expo, another event that happened here in America. And Reggie has been a driving force back home with his community and everything as well. Such a great rider.
Next up, Ryan Baradelli, RBE Motion. He is a frequent racer. He rides a DIY build, and he is a friend of Amped Electric Games.
Yeah, one of those DIY builds you'll see out there, which is super, super exciting. That means they do it yourself. They have made that board through parts and have put them together, so it'll be really cool to see that.
Next up on the roster, who you'll see today is Jack Farah. He is riding for Advanced Riders Division.
Yeah, so Jack Farah, he definitely has been around the track more than once. It's definitely a name you see on the roster again and again and again, and there'll be many more just like Jack Farah making their way down, including the next rider, which is Mario Chacon. Mario Chacon is a night rider, Intro to Speed, Electrify Expo champion this year. This man has been all over the place, hasn't he, Seth?
He gets around, that's for sure. Night rider Mario Chacon. We most recently saw him out in Bentonville at the Amped Electric Games on an off-road course there.
I know. Take that in for a second.
Intro to Speed founder Mario Chacon. This community owes a lot to Mario Chacon, and we are so happy to see him out here, always pushing the support, both EUC and Eastgate, Mario Chacon.
And the next rider we've got is Jialong Tanta, another rider that is dual sport, meaning they ride EUC and they ride Eastgate. Another very, very adamant member of an Intro to Speed community back home, helping his local community members get into racing and find their passion to be on that track.
Yes, that's right. Jialong is from Escondido.
Yes.
A fun word to say. Escondido, California, riding out of San Diego. Next up, we have Ray Albano, Eastgate rider. He travels all around. He has about 2 years experience, and he is also active in the Intro to Speed scene as well.
Yes, next on the list, we have Artem. Artem is actually the SKP man. but I believe he won't be here today. But he has registered to race.
Thank you for your support.
Yes, and next we have Joseph. Joseph is both EUC and E-Skate. Again, another dual sport rider out there. And in 2023, he's raced for SKP in Phoenix E-Riders, Intro to Speed back home in that community as well.
Yes, that's right. And Joe Hickborn, he was also the E-Skate track designer for Amped Electric Games in Bentonville in 2023. That was one of the most fantastic tracks we have ever seen. Big shout out to Joe Hickborn, a friend of Amped Electric Games.
Absolutely, that track was really nice. I like that track back then. The next racer we have coming up is James Hodgson.
Who are we on? Next up is Tucker Johnson. TuckJohn37 on Instagram. He's a spacecraft designer.
That's pretty cool. Some of these people have really cool day jobs, not gonna lie. But again, another member that was really into Intro to Speed, or is into Intro to Speed. We're finding that a lot with a lot of these racers too, and they're developing their skills.
And also riding a DIY e-skate as well.
Very cool, yeah. Another do-it-yourself design.
Design spacecrafts and electric skateboards.
Yes. So moving on, we have Brandon Stevens. He used to be a pro flow rider, which is very cool, transitioning those skills into e-skate now, which is really cool to see. And he has a DIY stooge build, in a sense. Kind of DIY, but put together with stooge parts. Another really, really cool board we're gonna see out there today.
Hudson here? Okay. Next up, we have Andy Powell.
Alan Powell.
Next up, we have Alan Powell. He rides out of the Intro to Speed Inland Empire, and this is Alan's racing debut here at TEF1.
That's going to be exciting. It's probably not the only debut, but very, very monumental when you get to see one of those racers come out here for the very first time. Program. The next racer we have coming up is Dina Ketch. Dina is out of San Diego. She's racing with stooge boards and the MLR recently, and today she may have a different board out there, so she rides multiple different boards and also back at home helping run the Intro to Speed sessions and whatnot as well.
She is one prolific e-skate racer. We have seen her all over the place. Dina Couture.
Yeah, we find some of these females quite fast on this track, but Dina's definitely one you have to mention when you're mentioning e-skate female racers.
And next up, another racer out of Phoenix, Jacob Laura. He's riding a stooge race board as well. This is his third race. So you got quite a crew coming out from Phoenix. Actually, it's not too far away from here in Winchester, California. So just a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, we see a few of those racers, but the next one on our list is from the local area. It is Rux Smith, a very, very prolific rider here as well, helping out back home with the Intro to Speed, starting off that whole thing with Mario Chacon as well. Beautiful to see those guys growing that into something amazing, and these guys, especially Rux, are working really hard to keep everyone in the scene and racing.
Yeah, that's what, this e-skate community out here and the EUC community, everybody out here helping each other out. It's really nice to see everybody come together. You know, if somebody needs parts, they hand off parts, but when they're out on the racetrack, it's a different story. It's every person for themselves, every racer for themselves. But yeah, Rux Smith, he is a frequent rider on the podium.
Oh, always on the podium. Very, very, very fast rider you'll find out there today. The next rider we got is James Connolly, and this will be his third race, and he comes from an athletic background, which I think will do him a lot of favors going into this race today, being such a long track.
Yep, and he is also our oldest rider, our oldest racer here today at a spry 61 years old. Watch out for James Connolly.
Yes, absolutely. So moving on with our list, getting down to the last few e-skate pro racers, we have Derek Stavis, I mean to say.
He lives the e-skate lifestyle.
Yes, very much so. And we have a few more racers coming up. Han-Dong Zhang is going to be here today, also known as e-skate speedster. And our last e-skate rider out there today is another name that we've seen more than once, Dallas Steinberger.
Last but not least, Dallas Steinberger, another racer from the Phoenix area. He is the founder of the Intro to Speed, and also we have seen him all around. Dallas Steinberger on that DIY board, most recently at eSkateCon.
Yeah, so a few of those names you'll notice if you've seen one of these events before or been around or even attended one in person. There's a few names that are definitely, you've seen before and you've heard them over the microphone, and I'm super happy to see a lot of those racers are back here today.
It is going to be an exciting day of racing here live from the K1 circuit and the TEF1 inaugural event in the United States.
Yeah, in the United States, their first event was held, I believe, in Vancouver, Canada.
That's right, Vancouver, Canada. They had some EUC riders. I believe this is going to be their first dual sport as well. I'm not sure. We'll check on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is true as well. So, and a few of those racers have come here today. I believe the person who won that event, the first TEF1 event, is here today, Albert. And a lot of other racers and spectators coming here from all over. Myself, I'm from Toronto. On the East Coast, we have some riders out from the East Coast out here as well on the track. So super exciting to see not just local racers, and everyone's kind of sticking their hand in the pot here.
That's right, Brett, and that reminds me, you are an e-skate racer as well, so we've got somebody in the booth here that has a lot of knowledge about these boards and these riders, and I really hate to put you on the spot, Brett, but do you have any favorites going in to this race?
Well, if you know me, you know one thing personally about me is that I can't pick favorites, and maybe that's gonna work in my favor here, because I truly can't pick favorites. But there's some like exciting racers out there that I really want to see going fast. I don't really want to name names, but of course you gotta mention the Mario Chacones, the Ruxes out there. Seeing a Dina Ketch, and even some other names like Dallas Steinberger. Some familiar names out there. So. Yeah, I don't want to kind of assume who's going to be the fastest or anything like that. I just kind of want to let it happen and unfold in front of me.
That's right. I think that we will also see a lot of differences in the boards as well. So we have different riders on different boards with different technologies. I know that we've got some Stooge race boards out there.
Yeah, Stooge race boards have been around for quite many years, but something that's happened just recently too is that they've collaborated with Meepo to design the Monsoon Legacy race board, which is one of the first ever race boards created that you could just take off the shelf and be competitive on one of these tracks like the K1 circuit here in Winchester. That's
one thing I love to see, Brett. I love to see the fact that these boards are being made available to grow the sport. We, as our legacy with Amped Electric Games, we love to bring these sports up and just draw more people. It's such an exciting time, and such an exciting race, and it's a great community to be a part of as well.
Yeah, so if you don't know what you want to do and you want to get into racing per se, this community is amazing for that. Because if you kind of know this or you know that, they'll help you find the right solution and the board for you. We talked about the MLR board, but a lot of these other DIY boards that are out there too. But you'll also find some stock boards, just some regular boards, maybe made for off-roading or made for street riding, and they'll even be out here on this track here today too.
That's right, and you did mention the Monsoon Legacy race board, which I believe has some Stooge DNA built into it.
Yes, it does. So the one thing that Stooge has got going for them is they have put a lot of R&D into their trucks. And the trucks that they use are very, very, it's hard to explain, Seth. When you ride the thing, it's like, I don't even know how to make it into a proper metaphor for something, but you just feel secure. So when they went to make that Monsoon Legacy race board with Meepo, that was most definitely a very, very important feature of that board that made it what it is, truly.
We want to give a shout out to our drone crew out here. We have Casualty FPV providing you with this eye-in-the-sky shot of this beautiful K1 circuit track. You notice right there that long straightaway at the bottom of the screen going up into the S-turn, going up the hill. And that's the big determining factor of this race course is the elevation change, Brett.
Yeah, it's one thing that we had, like we mentioned, we haven't really seen it, but as you can see on your screen there, it may be hard to tell as they make their way left across the screen into the next section. They're moving up and up and up, and you can see the dirt in the middle of the screen there as it's elevated way up in the air.
That's right. Another thing that really sets this track apart are those berms, and they're kind of banked. So that is something where you would kind of come into the apex of the turn and then slingshot out the other side using that bank to your advantage.
Yeah, the bank may come in handy because with this elevation, it's one thing you got to be thinking about moving forward and backward, but when you have that additional speed of going downhill as well, say you're trying to brake, we find some of these e-skates, but especially some of these EUCs may go into a wobble. There's certain things you have to be aware of when you have these elevation changes and these banks and all these different features that you find in these tracks, or well, at least this track that we're here at today, that we maybe aren't so accustomed to in the past.
So from what I understand, Brett, the big difference between the e-skate racing and the EUC racing, or electric unicycle racing, is the fact that the e-skate racers have some type of a controller in their hand that they're using?
Yeah, so with an EUC, it's a balance-based device, but with an e-skate, it's just like some regular remote control toys that you have around. Same type idea, right? You have a remote in your hand, and in there it has a different remotes have different ways of accelerating, meaning the trigger itself. So you can have a wheel, you can have a stick that you push forward and back, you can even have a trigger that moves in both directions as well. So it kind of like in any of the hobby electronics space, those little remotes with triggers, if you have a DIY board, you can kind of create your own thing. You could use any one of those remotes.
All right, so I have a remote control car, and it has kind of a trigger remote. Is that similar to how they're controlling these skateboards?
Yeah, if those little toy ones you're talking about, right? Like, I can't imagine you had a real size one with like a remote on it. But yeah, that exact same idea. But a lot of these remotes now into 2024 are being curated and made specifically for these boards, right? And some of these new remotes that are coming out, they're getting smarter and smarter, being able to tell us more and more about our devices so we don't have to dig into them to figure out exactly how much voltage or any of that is going on in the board. So to have a lot of those readouts and information on that remote is huge now. That never used to be a thing.
All right, so you can have like voltages and things like that right on the remote.
Yeah, and you could change your gear settings and go slower or faster and all that stuff.
Wow. That just blew my mind.
Yeah, and even more so, X-Way and other companies have come out with boards recently with LEDs on the outside, so you can control the lights with the remote as well.
Oh, nice. That's great. So as opposed to the electric unicycles where their real control is leaning, so you don't have any type of remote or anything like that. You're basically leaning forward to accelerate and leaning back to brake.
Yeah, with the e-skates, though, it's a little bit different. When it comes to the confidence and how you ride with that throttle. With EUC, you just you got to throw yourself off the front of it and really push forward and kind of be in tune with your device. Where on e-skate, you have to be in tune with your device, yes, very much so, but when you push that throttle, it's almost like you don't want to hear the answer to the question that you've asked if you're pushing it hard enough, you know what I'm saying? So you just got to hold on. Hold on. That's all you got to do. So it's vastly different when it comes to accelerating between EUC and e-skate, and we get to see those two differences here today.
Yeah, and also depending on the gearing, I imagine, on some of these e-skates, you have some that have more high torque, and then you have others that are more geared for high speed. So you could possibly, hit that throttle and be off on a rocket ship with some of these wheels.
Absolutely, you can be. And a lot of these boards, too, it's not just a standard gear setup. There's different ways you could do it. You can have a gear-on-gear, like a gear drive is what we call it. You could have a belt over the motor, which is a belt drive. And you'd also have a hub motor as well, which is basically the motor inside of the wheel. So if you ever see a skateboard on the street and it's electric and it's going down the road and you don't really see the motors, could be a hub motor.
Very, very cool. This is not your granddaddy's skateboard.
No, those gear drive boards, those are the serious ones. The gear drives and a lot of the belt drives that you'll find out here today. I honestly don't know if we're going to see any hub boards out here, hub motor drives. We used to a lot, but as we progress more into more of these faster speeds and faster in corner, or going faster into these corners, we're seeing more of those boards change up to gear drives and those really hefty Kevlar belts that they put on those motors.
So if you are interested in learning more about e-skate racing, maybe you want to get into e-skates, a great place to start would be the Intro to Speed. There are Intro to Speed events all over the country. So if you just look on Facebook, I believe it's Intro to #2 Speed, and you can find out more information about joining a local chapter.
Yeah, and it's not even Intro to Speed. Talk to your local community. And if you don't know if there is one, maybe they'll tell you there is one, and you'll be able to find your way through that. So having that community connection is everything.
A lot of these racers, they go out to these Intro to Speeds to really warm up for events like this, and they race together. I know that Mario Chacon and Rux, for instance, they're constantly chasing each other through the turns and through the berms, trying to catch each other and really honing those skills. So when you see these racers out on the track today, you can rest assured these are professional racers at the highest degree, the highest level.
And it's something that's very difficult to do. And if you haven't raced before, just imagine yourself next to somebody going extremely fast, and they're literally shoulder to shoulder. A lot of these racers in this Pro Series, they've gotten used to that. It's something you have to do to become a better rider, is riding next to other riders. So to have those Intro to Speed sessions and to have those community sessions where you get together with these racers who show up to event after event after event to be with them side by side, that is the #1 thing you could do for your training.
Absolutely. And we just want to once again thank the broadcast sponsor, Lazy Rolling. Not only did Lazy Rolling sponsor the broadcast, but they also brought us candy. So thank you so much, Robin, for bringing us some candy here. Oh, it's actually candy from Sweden.
Oh, yes. So if you didn't know, they're from
Swedish
Sweden.
candy.
And we just got an absolute treat on our table. So thank you so much to Lazy Rolling. Make sure you go check out their website. I'm not just talking bluff and fluffer out here. I love their stuff, and I have their jacket right behind me. And I'll be wearing it later when I'm riding. So.
We're getting ready to start out here, folks. Getting ready with the E-Skate Pro Heat #1 coming up very soon from the K1 circuit track and TEF1. All right, folks, for this first heat, we have number 20, Ray Albano.
We've got number 27, James Hodgson. We've got number 8, Jack Farrow. And number 71, Handon Zhang. Now, Seth, I don't know if you noticed, if you could see on the track, the first racers are getting lined up in their stage positions, And it's something we're going to see all day today, I think. Burning rubber. Do you see any smoke out there? I heard something earlier.
Heating up those tires, depending on the type of tire or wheel they have. There could be urethane, could be rubber, and some of these racers are getting their tires right. Similar to how a drag racer might warm up their tires, get a little bit more traction on this course.
100%. And I can tell you from an e-skate racer perspective, that actually works. Some people think it's a little bit obnoxious, but getting a little bit of heat in those rubber tires, not the urethane ones, though that wouldn't help you as much, but getting a little heat and stickiness in there means a lot for these starts as these e-skate pros are ready to go.
All right, to get it started here, we will have 3 laps. 3 laps, so when you see the green flag repping and they're off, heading down, wow.
Watch those e-skates take off the line, some of the first racers, and you hear those motors just whining, don't you?
Incredible speeds out here at K1 Racetrack. It is great to kick off TEF1, and we are so happy that you're here with us watching live.
Yes, that beautiful drone footage is able to follow those racers as they make their way around the track. You'll notice that they're starting to split up a little bit. You'll find that as different skill levels are on the track, and later on today, you may find them getting closer and closer and closer together as they're racing.
Once again, shout out to our drone pilots. I mentioned Casualty FPV. We also have Ryan Alexander, something.fpv on Instagram.
You were just following Ray there on that drone footage, but look at how beautiful that track is here today. They're going to be making their way down that very long stretch on the right-hand side and zooming left across your screen there towards the start-finish line.
You know, I had the pleasure of riding this track, albeit on a cart, but these hairpin turns are just incredible. Let's see who we've got coming across the finish line or across the start line here.
I believe that is Jack Farah, number
Jack,
8.
He put in one of the fastest qualification times, so it does not surprise me to see Jack Farah out in front.
No, one of those names that are quite familiar to me. I keep seeing it in most of these competitions. Now, a couple of these racers are making their way down that stretch and over the line, and you hear the crack of those flags. It's really cool at that green flag at the beginning. So as they make their way around for their second lap, they're going to have one more, and then they will be able to see that checkered flag.
This is a 3-lap heat, with 4 racers to start us off here at TEF1. There's that corner and into that long straightaway. This is where we heard they could be hitting speeds up to 50, 60, maybe even 65 miles per hour.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even doubt that because this track isn't small and they're pretty far away, and we can hear them all the way over here from the spectator area. As they make their way across the start-finish, you can most definitely hear them. But these boards, they're working real hard out there today in the first heat for the e-skate pros.
I've got word from our Willie Brady. He's got the radar gun, and he said 58 miles per hour in that home stretch and that quick straightaway down there, 58 miles per hour. And you could tell these racers are just phenomenal on these boards, leaning into those turns, that sweeping S-turn down the curve, and then around the corner into that hairpin turn and that straightaway.
Yeah, you'll notice that's a feature of the e-skate. The drone was following him, and then he just took off. and he just flew away. That's the remote on that trigger, just hammering it down, and off they go, right there, into the corner. Very exciting to watch that as they control themselves into the red, white, almost. Very good to see that.
Something that we haven't mentioned before is anytime you see that red and white checker, that is a rumble strip. So getting into that rumble strip at speed could be disastrous. So you will see these racers doing everything they can to avoid that rumble strip.
Ooh, and an absolute takeover on the back stretch there to come over the start-finish line here. I believe we are going to have Jack Farah.
Jack Farah.
62 miles an hour. From an Eastgate racer's perspective, that is a fast track.
His last lap time was 1 minute, 23 seconds.
We are not kidding around here, folks. Watch as these Eastgate riders make their way around across the finish line. Let's give them some love from the spectators.
Put your hands together for these Eastgate riders in their first heat. And let me get a round of applause for Joe Lamb, race coordinator. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, SoCal legend is an absolute legend. It's great that his name is that. Working very hard with Electrify Expo this year, finding his way with TEF1 to help race coordinate this entire event.
We've got the last two racers coming in across the finish line here. The checkered flag is waving.
All right, coming around that final corner, the Eastgate making their way towards the start-finish line for that checkered flag.
And that concludes the first heat of our Eastgate Pro Class. Jack Farah with the top speed on that last qualifier of 1 minute, 23 seconds, .787. We had Jack in first place, Andy Zhang in second place, and Ray Albano in third place in the first Eastgate Pro Heat.
That was a very exciting race to watch. You had Jack Farah just taking it off in the front, leaving that big gap, and even by the end, lapping one of the racers.
That was incredible. It truly is amazing to see the athleticism and the technology being married together in this sport of Eastgate racing.
Now we're just going to keep an eye on those racers as they make their way off of the track, finishing their heat, and you'll find brand new racers making their way up to that start-finish line for the next heat.
It is a pleasure to be broadcasting here with you, Brett. We were most recently together at Amped Electric Games in Bentonville, race coordinator up there. We really appreciate your help in really pushing these sports forward and just always being there and always being a cheerleader, especially for your mini PEV games that's coming up in Canada, I believe.
I appreciate the shout out there, Seth. And it comes down to the whole community too. It comes down to Seth creating the Amped Electric Games and having all of these factions come together to create this robust racing scene.
Mario Chacon coming up next in this next heat. He is one to watch out for, Brett. He is protected by lazy rolling. That's right. Mario Chacon, he got armored.
We also have Brandon Stevens on the track and Gio Nebrero on the track as well.
As well as Jacob Laura. Jacob Laura, Mario Chacon, Gio Nebrero. Yep.
Yeah, you'll notice that SoCal legend Joe is up there at the line. He's giving them all the instructions they need to get ready for the race. They will get all ready to go. You might see them warming up their tires a little bit.
Yep.
And as soon as they make their way off of that track, we're going to wait for that green flag.
32.
Yep.
Brandon Stevens. Mario Chacon, Jacob Lara, Gio Nebrero, and Brandon Stevens on the line for this next next E-Skate Pro Heat.
And they're off the crack of the green flag. And we hear that stooge board just taking off out front. And that's Mario Chacon and the three other racers fast right behind them, making their way into the first corners.
One thing you notice about Mario is he has a really wide stance.
He has very good form, and it comes with those years of experience. You watch him on your screen there. He's very fixed in his position, and he's very methodical with his arms, his legs, his head, everything, his torso, and how he moves his way into those corners. He's very recognizable, you could say.
Absolutely, absolutely. That form is impeccable as he's heading through those S-turns. And this is one of those straightaways. And at the end of this straightaway is a very tight hairpin turn. Back up the hill, you'll see he's going into that now. So they're using a little bit more battery to get back up that hill, climbing that hill into that next turn.
Yeah, absolutely. As they make their way into this hairpin, it's not easy. And you may notice an arm flail up or something. That's literally them losing traction for a half second, gaining it back, and then making their way as well. So we see some really great safe riding here so far. And we really want to make sure that these guys remain safe on this track, even if they're not wearing their lazy rolling jackets.
One thing that is of utmost importance to TEF1 is the safety of these racers. And here comes Mario Chacon finishing his first lap and heading up the hill to begin his second lap.
That is something I don't know if I'll ever get used to. Hearing those stooge boards make their way across the line, hearing Mario come out right now, very loud board, very cool to hear. Our next racers are coming over the line now as well. Jacob Lara just getting over the start finish there, making their way through the first couple of corners onto coming up to their third lap. I believe they're on their second now.
Mario Chacon is in first place by time, followed by Brandon Stevens about 15 seconds behind, and Jacob Lara behind him by about 21 seconds. That rider's wearing lazy rolling.
Yeah, that is the iconic reflective top you see in there, drapes over the shoulders onto near down the elbow. That reflective top, great in the evening, but also great for sliding. That material is great. So if they happen to go down today and they're wearing a lazy rolling jacket, the slide potential is what you're looking for, and they definitely provide it.
Here comes Mario Chacon. Flying. It looks like he's barely touching the ground, but he's coming in for his third and final lap.
You notice he's got the Armored by Lazy Rolling all over his leathers there. It's really, really cool to be seeing that go across the track as they're sponsoring this event today. Absolutely cool to see him in his leathers. And he's not the only one. I saw a couple others out there too. So these folks are getting ready for some high-speed racing. As we heard them come across the line there, it's definitely high-speed racing.
And these riders that are not wearing leathers, you will find that they are wearing elbow protection, wrist protection, chest protection. Kids, do not try this at home without all of the proper safety gear. It is of utmost importance to absolutely, number one, wear a helmet when you're doing sports like this.
There's a famous term, AGAT, all the gear, all the time.
Gio Nebrejo coming across the line for his third and final lap. Get on the rider. And the checkered flag is out for Mario Chacon.
There we go. It does not happen instantly. It takes some time to get around this track as they're making their way around. We see some gaps, like I mentioned at the beginning of the program. There may be a little bit of gaps in here in the heat section. Later on today, you'll notice those gaps are going to start closing up bit by bit by bit, and those races are going to be getting closer and closer to one another.
I am loving this candy from Lazy Rolling.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great sponsor because that candy was next level.
It's like a Swedish Sour Patch Kid.
I don't know what to call it, but it's good.
And the checkered flag is out for Brandon Stevens in second place, followed by Jacob Lara in third. Once again, that's Mario Chacon in first with a time of 1 minute, 34 seconds, followed by Brandon Stevens with a time of 1 minute, 49 seconds, and Jacob Lara with a time of 1 minute, 49 seconds, .383.
Yeah, we're just going to keep with our last racers as they make their way around the track and finish up, and we'll be moving on to our next Eastgate Heat. You hear that board as they're making it up to the start finish now from way afar. I love that sound.
So this isn't our first rodeo.
A rodeo, yes, not the first.
One thing that I love about working with this team is just the way that the drone operators work so well with the race operators. And as well as we absolutely want to thank TEF1 for securing this track and securing this race. And I am very excited to see what comes from TEF1 in the future.
Yeah, can we hear it from the people out there today? How excited are you for this event here in Winchester, California from TEF1? We love having you here, and we love to see all the racers in the pits getting ready. We hope you thoroughly enjoy watching this so far as we make our way through the heats and eventually into some finals.
I got a question for the folks at home. Who do you have on your list? Who's your favorite rider? Put it down in the comments. And also, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more live action from TEF1.
Yes, TEF1 is working very hard to make all of this happen. Make sure you go follow them on all their social medias. It makes such a great impact in everything that's going on. Because as we know, this scene, a little bit of a smaller community that's growing very fast. So being able to get out there and to exemplify that is everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. We love to see events like this, and we love to see more events like this. So please help to support TEF1 and their mission to bring fast, elite, pro racing to the masses.
Copy.
For our next heat, we have some racers that may be familiar to you. We've got Rux.
Yes, the one and only Rux. We also have Tucker Johnson, another name that is very familiar as they make their way off that green. They're off. We also have James Connolly and Derek Stavis on the track.
I think that was one of the fastest starts we've seen yet. They came out of the starting line like a bolt. That was incredible.
Yeah, it's a great heat here, and they're kind of sticking together, similar speeds, similar on the corners, and it's really good to see them being able to battle it out to see who's going to make it their way into these finals.
We have not seen grouping like this yet. This is going to be quite a race. As they're heading down the hill, down those S's, into that straightaway. And remember, Brett, right at the end of this straightaway is a hairpin turn back up the hill.
Yeah, you'll notice these racers, they're going to try to be taking these racing lines, going out wide, making their way into the apex, and then exiting the turn wide. And that's all to keep as much speed as they possibly can through all of this. As they hit those straights, they may be tucking, bringing their heads down and their arms back, just to get as much speed as they can through the wind.
And coming dangerously close to those rumble strips, Brett. My stomach goes into my chest when I see him come close to those rumble strips. Down the straightaway, we have a dogfight here, Brett.
Absolutely. Taking it over there, the pass, and I don't think the other rider is going to let that slide. They're definitely still straight on the heels. That looks to be Tucker Johnson. Yeah, coming up behind, trying to take that spot back.
54 miles per hour on those boards.
Yeah, Tucker's looking for that space there behind that rider, calculating and calculating. He is definitely a pro rider. He's been around several years trying to push this sport, and he's a great racer. Watch him there as he's trying to find his way to make his pass.
We have Rux in first place. Rux is in first place, followed by Tucker Johnson. That's by time, so, that could change based on the way these riders are just battling it out, coming so close to that rumble strip as they're coming down this home stretch.
Oh, getting really close to those rumble strips on the outside. For those at home who don't know, those are definitely textured. So if you hit them, it's not fun. It's really not fun. So these racers are doing a great job keeping it within those lines, keeping it on the track, but getting really close to those rumble strips as they try to keep as much speed as they can.
And some of these wheels are kind of hard. So I imagine going into that would cause quite a chatter.
Yeah, a lot of these e-skate riders here, they're preferring the rubber. And at these higher speeds and these tires, they kind of need that for their traction as they're making their way across here.
Rux still in first place, followed by Tucker Johnson.
Rux is an absolute fierce member on that track. He's been doing downhill for years and has found himself in these e-skate races always near the front. And you'll notice that he's wearing his leathers today. That means he is serious. It is time to play.
That's right. And Derek Stavis is in third place. And our elder rider, James Connolly, in fourth place. They are battling it out around that hairpin turn, heading back up the hill. This is quite an exciting. Oh,
this
boy.
is most definitely a great race to be watching right now as these two battle it out. They are no strangers to one another. These two are those two that you'd see at those intro to speed sessions just gnawing at each other's heels. And they're out here at this track in Winchester, California, doing no different, trying to find that little space to get ahead of one another.
They look pretty evenly matched, but it looks like we may have a position change coming up here. Oh! And then heading back into that corner.
Oh, losing a little bit of traction there for a half second. It looks like he had more top speed on his board than the other, but Rux coming across the line.
Rux in first place.
Tucker Johnson making his way very close behind to take that second place.
And we're just waiting for these final riders to come through, but once again, Rux with a best time of 1 minute 36 seconds. Tucker Johnson with a lap time of 1 minute 37 seconds. And Derek Stavis with a lap time of 1 minute 45 seconds.
There we go, as they make their way across the track there and across the finish line, James Connolly.
All right, folks, we are so excited to be bringing you these TEF1 races. We will be hitting our third and final Eastgate Pro Heat in just a moment. We are excited to be bringing this to you courtesy of Lazy Rolling. Thank you so much, Lazy Rolling. Head on over to lazyrolling.com and get armored.
Now that was an extremely exciting race there, Seth, wasn't it? That's more final action that you'd find there between Rux and Tucker Johnson there. What a great race that was.
That sure was. It was a dogfight there the entire race. I mean, I don't think they let each other up one time. It was just trading back and forth. And, you know, finding that line and holding that line and blocking, you know, there's a lot of strategy that goes into Eastgate racing, a lot more than you would think. It's not just about speed.
Yeah, because a lot of these times on these devices, we're watching Eastgates right now, but they're still privy to that, like being bumped and knocked off their board, you know? So it's not like car racing or anything like that.
The riders are staging for the third and final Eastgate Pro Heat. We have Dina Couture, Reggie Thomas, number 15, Jialong Tondat, and number 40, Alan Powell, racing out of the Intro to Speed Inland Empire. Looks like we're going to have quite a few more racers on this heat. We've got 6 racers, I believe. There are 6 racers staging. This should be exciting, Brett.
Yeah, absolutely. Some names in this heat that are going to be very exciting to see as well. Every heat's got them, but this is no exception. We got Reggie Thomas up there. Definitely a name you're going to be looking out for. Very fast rider off the line. And as they go green, look who's out front.
They're off.
Dina catches in second place there, and they're all pretty close as they make their way around that first straight, splitting up one by one. Now just watch as these racers are making their way around here. I believe we had a pass, and they're straight on the heels. Watching, I believe, Dina catch out front there, just holding the line back, waiting for the right moment. The racer is behind. We'll see in the straights, we've been watching a couple of these E-skates being able to unleash their throttle a little bit to get ahead. Doesn't look like he has it quite yet into that hairpin. Taking the inside corner, mate. Find that traction to just launch off and take that pass there. Look at that incredible racing out here in Winchester, California.
Dina Couture, Reggie Thomas, Geelong Tonthat, Alan Powell, Ryan Baradelli, and Ray Albano are in our third and final E-Skate Pro Heat.
They're making their way into that. The first racers are making their way into that very long back stretch. They're going to make that right-hand turn, come right in front of all of our spectators and racers here today, and make their way to that start-finish line for their first lap.
Reggie Thomas in first place, followed by Geelong. In third place, Dina Couture.
Those are three household names. Reggie Thomas out front, that is no surprise, and hot on their heels are a couple other very fast racers as the rest of the heat is making their way across the start-finish right now.
In fourth place, Dallas Steinberg. In fifth place, Joe Hickborn. We need the EUC Pro Riders to stage for the start of your heats. These racers are topping out on this track at 51 miles an hour for this pro skate heat.
Ooh, he's keeping it together there. They're finding some forces coming into their boards there as they come over the start finish. They have to break into those couple of corners as they make their way up in elevation. Great to see.
Reggie Thomas, Geelong Tonthat, and Dina Couture in first, second, and third through 2 laps.
Love the sound of those gear drives as they make their way across the start-finish line. Some iconic sounds from these boards. They're pushing real hard. Up at the front, too. Doing a great job. Everyone's quite safe on this track today. We love to see it. Maybe that's because we were sponsored by Lazy Rolling.
We are doing our best to get the names of these riders, but some of them bundled up and covered their PIP numbers, so we're doing our best out here to keep you guys informed in who is in first, second, third place, and throughout these races. Through the start-finish line, Alan Powell just finished, and we've got a checkered flag out, with Reggie Thomas out in front. In second place, Geelong Tonthat. And coming down the home stretch and in third place, Dina Couture.
He's She's riding one of those stooge boards out there today. It's very obvious when you hear him come across the line there. They're very smart for bringing that board out. This is a fast track.
Dina Couture racing out of San Diego for Team Stooge Race Board. And Dallas Steinberger in 4th place, and Joe Hickborn, affectionately known as Joe number 1.
I was like, what?
All right. And we have our final rider, Alan Powell, finishing up the E-Skate Pro Class Heat number 1. Give it up for these E-Skate racers, y'all.
Yes, they were working real hard as they're making their way around the track. A lot of these racers. And this heat, this last heat with a few extra racers with it, was kind of fun and exciting to watch.
Exciting. I think that's the understatement of the year, Brett.
Yeah? Yeah, these races are, if you're not here in person and you're watching on the screen in front of you today, you've got to make your way out to one of these events and feel these boards and these devices come past you. It's unlike any other, motorsport. The motors in motorsport and NASCAR and all these other, it's so much louder. This is a way different experience. You have that intensity without the sound that so much comes behind it until you hear the boards themselves.
It is quite exciting, and you mentioned that whine of the Stooge race board. Now, is that the gears or the belt drive that we're here?
Yeah, that is the belt. That is like the gears within that are doing that. So it's not the battery or anything like that. You have the motor on the back, and it either can be touching another piece of metal, so metal on metal, and that's why you kind of hear that. Or if you have the belt, that's more of like the vroom kind of sound that you hear. It's not so much of that metal touching on metal. It's those belts that are on there. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, and we're heading into the electric unicycle class here.
Yeah, we have 2 electric unicycle classes. We have our open class and we have our female class as well. So it'll be exciting to see which one's coming up first and have those racers be able to start off on that line.
So electric unicycle, this is a self-balancing device. There are all sorts of different sizes and types of electric unicycles, some that are designed for off-road uses, some that are designed for on-road uses, and some people use whatever for whatever when you're out here. But I think the thing about the electric unicycle is the freedom of not having a controller, so you're using your body as input and to steer and to brake. Okay. So for those of you that are here on site, congratulations, the live audience. You are at one of the most prolific and epic PEV events of all time, TEF1. We will be going into a quiet break here locally for the live audience. But you at home, you're lucky because you get to continue to listen to the illustrious Brett Brownlee and myself provide you with a play-by-play action for the EUC Pro classes. All right, so for those of you that are here on our live stream, we are coming at you direct and live from Winchester, California, here in sunny California, Southern California, bringing you the TEF1 races. These are both E-Skate and EUC races coming at you live from TEF1. This live stream is presented by Lazy Rolling. Where can they find out more about Lazy Rolling, Brett?
You can go to lazyrolling.com, and that's where you're going to find everything you need when it comes to your armored jackets. They may even have some pants on there. So definitely go check them out. Very worthwhile. And I'm speaking from experience here, Seth. I wear these guys constantly at home. I don't ever not wear it.
That is awesome. Now, this class that's coming up, the EUC class, it's one that is, I would say, a little near and dear to my heart, personally. I love electric unicycle riding. Self-balancing devices are kind of my thing. I know you're an E-Skate racer, as well as an EUC racer as well. What would you see are the main differences between the different formats when it comes to an event like this?
I don't know. Can you elaborate on that maybe a little bit?
I mean, I'm wondering if the lines, are you picking different lines?
Okay.
I mean, you've got like a parallel stance versus a horizontal or a perpendicular stance.
Yeah,
So is there less room to pass somebody, for instance?
It's rather peculiar because you can race these things in two different ways, right? Like with e-skate, you can't really get close to the other person because something catastrophic can happen in an instant. Where with the EUC, maybe you can and your pedals will touch, but your pedals aren't moving, right? So on e-skate, the wheels are moving. So it's definitely, they're two vastly like different racing experiences. And especially when you get to see them on the track, like having an e-skate be able to just go down on that throttle and just take off is something that an EUC can't do, you know? So it's really exciting to see the e-skates be able to just take off, and later on today, maybe seeing some of those EUCs really get into those corners.
Yeah, for the EUC riders, you'll see them do the Michael Jackson lean, I like to call it, where they are kind of falling forward in a controlled manner, as such that the wheel is trying to catch up with them as they're falling forward.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes it very exciting. We're getting our first EUC heat ready to go. We just got our numbers in here, and we will let you know exactly who will be racing on the track and on your screen ahead of you today. Thank you so much for being part of the live broadcast. Stay tuned as the EUC races are coming up any second now. All right, we got number 13, Maxwell Berger. We also have John Fernandez out there. We also have Richard Salcedo out there. We've got...
Here we go.
You're getting ready to go
with the
here.
EUC Pro class. We're getting ready to see the green flag,
and
they
it's
are
out
off.
there.
Here we go. Maxwell Berger out in front.
Absolute force to be reckoned with out there, and I believe Mario Chacon is out there wanting to make that pass, couldn't quite make it. These EUCs move a lot faster. I feel like this commentary is about to pick up here, Seth.
That's right. That will be interesting to see the differences in lap times. But it does look like Maxwell Berger is being very strategic and boxing out, getting that inside line. But
So you were talking about those before. You'll notice that their lines are a little bit different with the EUC because they could shift their weight left and right, and really the variance in between is a lot more than an e-skate. They could quickly move a foot or two aside. Mario looking for that inside corner, but doesn't quite have it. He's looking to keep it safe. He knows this is a long track, and he's got to keep it together. But he's really good with his lines.
Two Knight Rider race team riders up against each other here. So chances are they have had quite a bit of practice time together as well. They know each other's styles. They know each other's moves. They have that little bit of inside information and can maybe get inside the other rider's head a little bit as well.
Yeah, you know what? I've seen it at competition. I have, and it's real. It's real. They'll get behind you, and because they're so quiet, you'll be able to hear them say, "I'm behind you. I'm behind you," or "I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you." So that's exactly what you're gonna see here. You may not hear from Mario Ciccone as he's behind there, but Maxwell Berger is just, oh, maybe had a little bit of a wobble going into that section.
Maxwell Berger and Mario Ciccone through the start line. Richard Salcedo, John Fernandez, La Laxina, Matt Burt, and Ian Budgell.
Ian Budgell from Toronto, making his way from Toronto to race in this race here today. Super happy to see all of these racers coming from all different places. These EUCs, they're going fast, Seth.
Yeah, I was wondering, what is your thought on stiff pedal versus soft pedal versus medium mode? Do you have any insight into that?
Keep it short and sweet. Everyone likes to think that hard is amazing, and I rode with hard pedals for a long time, but there's been a lot of conversation recently about softening those pedals up, and some of the fastest, best racers in the world are riding with that medium setup, maybe a soft setup, which is surprising as to what we were doing even 3 years ago.
And for those of you at home that are wondering what we're talking about, this is the amount of force that you have to put on the pedal before it begins to move the machine. So some of the riders are finding that those softer pedal settings are allowing them to lean further forward to give them a little bit more oomph off the start line.
Yeah, so those hard pedals will keep pretty well flat for the most part, but when you soften it up, when you accelerate forward, it'll kind of lean forward to make it a lot easier for you to do that, so kind of using it. Maxwell Berger making his way over the line with Mario Ciccone still hot on his heels, hot on his heels. Lots of beeping there. We knew we were going to hear that here at this race. And beeping most definitely means what, Seth? That they are on the edge of their machine. Absolutely.
The edge of cutting out, calling for as much power as that device can give them. And if they cut out, they are going to go face forward, hopefully onto their lazy rolling jackets, and be safe and safely slide out.
Yeah, so the beeping there is basically the machine telling the rider, hey, I've got no more to give you, and if you push that little bit harder, I'm going to have to shut off, not to explode. These lithium batteries are very, very powerful in what they can provide underneath our feet, but they also have safety measures, and one of them is cutting off.
Maxwell Berger putting in a time of 1 minute 29 seconds. That is incredible. Second only to... or in second place would be Mario Ciccone, followed by John Fernandez.
Yeah, another name that we've definitely seen before, John Fernandez. See on your screen there, you got Mario Ciccone. He's sitting down on his wheel, and he's looking down. He's looking down at a screen, and on that screen's got different information. He could be looking at his top speed. Who knows?
Here they come up the home stretch in first place. Maxwell Berger, followed by Mario Ciccone.
Very close behind. They were battling throughout most of that as they made their way around the track. Mario really wanted it from him, but Max was not going to let it up. Have our third place.
John Fernandez and Richard Salcedo in fourth.
Very good. We got La Laxina on the track there.
That was intense.
Yes, it's definitely different, wouldn't you say, Seth, between the E-Skates and the EUCs? They're both exciting, but in their own ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. You notice there was some drafting going on there as well. It looked like Mario Ciccone was kind of getting down, getting low, and kind of getting behind Maxwell, just waiting and anticipating when he could make that move, waiting for the guy in front to mess up. But you know what? Maxwell Berger did not. He did not open that door.
He had one little hiccup at one moment, but he's become such a skilled rider that he was right back on his line. He barely was off the track, and he kept it way up front there that whole time.
Yeah, pretty exciting to see these two teammates from the Night Riders clinching first and second place. And then in third place was John Fernandez, Team Alien Rides.
Yes, that's another prevalent team that we see around here today. A few riders are wearing the Alien Rides jersey, so it's really cool to see them out here pushing hard for their names.
All right. So 5 of those riders will advance, and 2 of those riders will be out. We'll definitely see Mario Chacon, John Fernandez, Richard Salcedo, La Laxina, and Maxwell Berger in the next heat for EUC Pro Class. But first, we have our next EUC Pro Heat coming right up. Zach Darnell from Sacramento, California, I see lining up on the starting line. Here we go.
And they are off on that green there, and off they go.
Having a little hiccup off the start, but it looks like he pulled it back in.
He's a very skilled rider. He's finding himself in 3rd right now, so not up front.
Yeah, maybe there's just not enough bumps on this track for Zach Darnell. He's usually an off-road rider. Maybe we need to throw some rocks out there and make him a little bit more comfortable.
Well, we were talking about the differences between E-Skate and EUC, and I think that's a big one is the starts with EUC. You got to have a clean start, and it makes such a big service. You notice Zach Darnell right there probably would have been in 1st place.
Yeah, starts are one of the toughest things with an EUC because oftentimes you can find yourself kicking your pedal up as you're putting your foot onto the pedal.
Yeah.
And that can cause a lot of problems. I'm not sure if that's exactly what happened to Zach Darnell, but it was definitely a little bit of a wobble out of there.
Ooh.
He lost his edge, but it looks like he's still maintaining 3rd place.
Yeah. It's great to see some of these EUC riders are on the rumble strips
into the
here.
rumble strip.
You know, it's not taking them out or anything. Those EUCs are built a little bit differently with the bigger wheels and stuff too. I think they could take those rumble strips a little bit and keep moving on and not really get taken out by them as they make their way really tight around those corners and into those stretches. Keep an eye on those wheels on these long stretches. They're going to be listening for those beeps.
And they're coming down the home stretch. Up. Oh, we've got a racer way outside here.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell some of these speeds too, and I think some of these riders are finding this elevation is sneaking up on them.
We've got Zach Darnell in 1st place, followed by Douglas Marshall in 2nd place, and Zen Lee in 3rd place. Here at this 2nd EUC Pro Heat.
You'll notice
from
Zen Lee in 3rd place there, fresh back to America from Spain, and he was in that Spain racing circuit out there, so it's going to be really cool to be able to compare using Zen as a reference on how Spain and the European race scene in EUC is comparing up here to the American scene.
Zen Lee enjoys the designation of the most highly decorated EUC rider. He has a lot of podiums. He may not be in 1st place in all the podiums, but he is definitely on the podium in the most races of any electric unicycle rider.
Very methodical, too. You watch them as they make their way around the track here. They're watching their lines. They know when to enter the corners. You'll see them making that definitive lean inwards towards the corner. Really cool to see that on your screen there is that drone shot beautifully following them.
Zach Darnell has quite a lead out there as they're coming into this home stretch. Once again, riders into the rumble strip there, but it doesn't seem to be bothering them. Oh, we had a pass. We had a position change coming into this uphill home stretch down towards the start line.
Yeah, looks like Zach Darnell still out front, going to take that start-finish line ahead of the other two. We got Zen Lee in 2nd.
Zen Lee passing Douglas Marshall for 2nd place.
Another.
Followed by Dave Soto, Brent Allen, and Songhai Smith.
Absolute iconic name out there, Douglas Marshall. He's definitely going to be looking for his moment to get around Zen Lee to make his way all the way up there to Zach Darnell. These racers are just incredible. Keep your eye on that screen and watch them as they're leaning into those corners. Some of the best EUC racers on your screen right now.
Zach Darnell's last lap was 1 minute 30 seconds, .768, followed by Zen Lee, 1 minute 31 seconds, .299, and Douglas Marshall with 1 minute 32 seconds, .196.
You notice they're gapping out a little bit there, and Zen Lee is actually catching up to Zach Darnell and leaving a little bit of a gap between them and Douglas Marshall there. So the gap between 1 and 2 is a lot shorter now. Douglas Marshall's really trying to fight forward to tighten that gap again on Zen Lee as he's taken away on him.
This is going to be a dogfight coming into this final stretch, folks. Here we go.
Just like the one Eastgate heat we had was very exciting, this will be another contender for that as they make their way here. They got a couple more turns. The lead pack has got one more, making their way into the start-finish line here. Let's keep an eye and see what Zen Lee can possibly do.
And here we go with Zach Darnell in first place, followed by Zen Lee. And in third place, Douglas Marshall. Now, once again, folks, the 5 top racers from, I believe, 4 or 5 of these top racers will move on into the next bracket.
Yeah, so with most of these competitions, they're elimination style. So once you finish your heat, you may be eliminated, you may move on.
All right. So that is concluding our second EUC Pro Heat. And we will be staging the racers here for our third and final EUC Pro Heat, coming at you live from the K1 Circuit Track and TEF1 in sunny Winchester, California. That was an epic race.
Yeah, these guys are still making their way around the track here, and it's just so cool to see them pushing so hard with their techniques in those corners, watching their bottom ends come out, swing out on those corners. Really cool to see that.
You know, I'm a little bit surprised, Brett. We have not seen any cutouts or any rubbing or anything quite yet.
Yeah, but maybe that's a testament to exactly what this is, a pro race. These are pro racers, and one thing that you've mentioned in your own event, the Amped Electric Games, is that if you cut out during the drag race, that is an aspect of your skill level, right? So that's one thing we want these pro riders to understand on this track today is to be able to keep their wheel underneath them and listen to those beeps. It's exactly what we're seeing here today. This is great.
Yeah, there's so many different variables when it comes to racing PEVs. I mean, you've got, you know, car or truck racing, maybe Ultra 4 racing, for instance. You've got different types of shock loads that you're going to put, you know, whether you use a valve shock or a coil shock. Also, the type of engine that you're running. These same variables also come into play for PEV racing. So we have things like tire pressure, tire selection, the type of compound that you might use, you know, the type of tire that you might use on a different type of a textured surface. So, you know, when it comes to PEV racing, a lot of those same race characteristics, the things that you look out for in other types of racing, you're also looking out for in addition to voltages and amperage draw and your battery life. So there's many things that come into factor, and you know, with these pros, they have their finger on the pulse of everything that's going on with their wheels.
Yeah, it's actually crazy the amount of things that these racers go through and have to understand about their vehicles. So let's keep an eye on these guys as they're lining up for our next EUC heat.
Right, in this next heat, we've got Darius Arias, we've got Kevin Zavala, Christopher Clark, Sung Shin.
Eva Hall as well, and they've got the green as they make their way onto the track.
Looks like Kevin Zavala out in front, I believe, Team Alien Rides. I do know they're wearing a Team Alien Rides jersey out in front.
That looks to be true, and it looks, I love these jerseys. You can start to tell who the riders are. It looks like in second place, we might have a Knight rider with that red jersey on there. And the third jersey there, that's the TEF1 jersey from the event. So love to see those TEF1 jerseys out there. We're pushing it real hard on that track. We'll see who's in first, second, and third as they're making their way very fast up to that start-finish line, Seth.
Man, riding this track, you don't realize how tight this turn is. It is literally a hairpin turn back onto itself. In addition to that, you're climbing back up the hill. So you really need to keep an eye on that voltage and keep a feel on those pedals for any softness, because you can easily overpower the wheel coming around that corner.
Yeah, so what Seth is saying there with the pedal softness, we'll actually feel the pedal drop from underneath them a little in the slightest bit, and that's an indication to the racer that they're on the edge of their device.
Coming into that home stretch, we've got two racers. I believe that racer in second place is watching his voltages as he's riding.
Yeah, they have the option to do that. If you have a secondary device, you can have it right in front of you with all the readouts. That might be Darius out there in second place. They come around the start-finish line right now.
With a little bit of steez, Darius Arias and Geelong Tonthat, followed by Christopher Clark. That's first, second, and third. Darius, Geelong, Christopher Clark. Eva Hall in fourth place. And James Culver in fifth.
Notice a little bit with this heat, they're splitting up. There's a little bit of more gaps in this heat than there was in the other heat as they're making their way around the track. You see a couple of those racers still getting up and over onto those rumble strips. Not easy to deal with, but they're making very light work of it.
Coming around the straightaway and up into across the start-finish line. Kevin Zavala in first place, followed by Darius Arias. Darius biding his time, hoping for a slip-up of Kevin Zavala. A lot of times that's all you can do when you're in second place is just wait for that bobble, wait for that slip-up, maybe just a little bit of rumble strip action, and you can make your move. But, man, at this class, with these racers, it is very difficult because many times they just don't make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a pro series. They're all going to follow very similar lines. They're all going to be doing somewhat the same thing. So to get around the other person, you're going to have to try that little bit harder in that unconventional way that you don't want to be on, right? You want to be on that line, but if that racer's on that line, you want to get around them, you're going to have to go off that racing line.
You see that steez, that looseness with which Kevin Zavala rides. He's very relaxed out there. You can tell he's just along for the ride. And with this race, there's really no limitation. I mean, these guys, whatever you race what you brought, there's no classes, there's no limitation. And coming around the home stretch and across the finish line in first place, Kevin Zavala.
Kevin Zavala, no stranger to the racing scene here. Very comfortable on that track. And Darius coming up into a close second place, the Night Rider, for that second place position.
In third place, we have Geelong Tonthat. In fourth place, Christopher Clark. Team Clark Racing, inventor of Clark pads, Chris Clark.
Last open here.
Yep. James Culver in 5th place, followed by Sung Shin. Thank you all so much for joining us here from K1 Circuit. This is the TEF1 races. We are so glad that you have joined us here for these PEV races, E-Skate and EUC races. Coming up next, we have the EUC Women's Pro Class.
Yes, they have qualified. They're getting ready to go. And I believe on the hour, we're going to be looking at some women on the track. Super exciting to see how this is going to unfold.
So if you haven't yet, maybe you want to pop some popcorn, grab a cold drink, and sit tight because you are going to see some of the fastest female EUC riders in the world. And don't forget, hit that like, hit that notification bell, and make sure you subscribe to TEF1, the Electronic Force One, for more racing action in the future. I am Seth Johnson, and I am joined by Brett Brownlee, the one and only. And we are bringing you this commentary live from Amped Electric Games, the voice of electric sports.
We just want to thank our broadcast sponsor once again, Lazy Rolling. Get armored. Go to lazyrolling.com. They're so nice. They even brought us some like treats and stuff. They're actually incredible. So big shout out to those folks. Super happy to have them here today. And yeah, we're going to get these women ready for you in a few minutes to race on this track.
So once again, a shout out to our drone team. We've got Ryan Alexander over here. We have got Casualty FPV, something.fpv. Make sure you reach out and follow them on their Instagram pages. I want to give a shout out to our director, Big Boy Fast Boy. That's at Big Boy Fast Boy, part of the Amped Electric Games team. Also to Willie Brady. He's out on the track with a radar fob so that we can bring you all of those live race speeds as the female EUC riders head out onto the track and get staged. Oh, nope, I stand corrected. We have another EUC Pro Class race coming up next. And we will bring you that roster of racers as soon as we get it into our hot little hands. We've got in this next heat, we have Joe Scott, Roger Jolly. They're off.
There's a bunch of other racers here. We'll get you their names.
Joe Scott just out there in front, just pushing.
I think we just got taken away there for a second as these racers make their way around a couple of absolute veteran riders here.
Joe Scott, winner of several races, most notably, I believe, AVS. Sam Clegg is also out there, Bay Area rider. And Justin Lee as well out there racing today on the EUC Pro Class. And from Phoenix, Vince Ramirez racing out here today. There's Sam Clegg, notable by his Alien Rides black and white jersey at the bottom of your screen there. And we're going to speed on up and see if we can't catch up with this first and second.
It's very likely. I think second place there is Roger Hajali. I could tell by his, potentially, by his stature as he's racing down there. And Show Scott looks to be out front. Very much identifiable riders, the both of them.
Wow, wow, wow. Show into the rumble strip there and slowing him down.
That's the thing, is there's a little bit of elevation there. That's what I was saying. You got to break into that downhill. You might have more speed than you'd expect, finding yourself into a little bit of a hairy situation into those red and green area, or red and white areas, sorry.
Brian Dillard out in front, followed by Show Scott and Sam Clegg. Justin Lee in fourth place.
Correction. That was a Dillard out front. That was not
right.
a Jolly. That man works very hard and always finds himself near the top of the podium, so that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Brian Dillard was the winner of the 2023 oval track race at Bentonville and the Amped Electric Games.
These two are just battling it out up front there, Seth. What do you think? Do you think there's going to be a pass coming up here by Show? Show's the one. He's going to be very vocal behind this rider right now. He's the one to let them know. I heard him at Electrify. He's going to let this rider know right ahead of them that he's right there and that he's going to want him. He's going to want him in his position.
That's a technique that we've seen before, kind of shouting out from behind, like, coming, I'm coming, I'm here. You know, without sonar, these riders are really just dependent on their vocals. Here we go. Are we going to see a pass? No.
And these riders, they know one another. These two definitely know one another. So they could be bantering back and forth right now. Like we said, you may not notice when you're sitting at home that these are pretty quiet. And until you're here to witness it for yourself, you can get away with talking to one another on the track.
Coming around that final, oh, we've got a racer into the rumble. Brian Dillard battling with Show Scott, hitting speeds up to 56 miles an hour in
We're
that
getting up there.
straightaway.
We're getting closer to 60 by the end of the day here. These races are getting faster and faster as they're making their way down that home stretch. It's actually insane.
Show Scott. Amazing. 1 minute, 30-second lap time. Brian Dillard, 1 minute, 31 seconds. And Sam Clegg coming in at 1 minute.
There's the pass
35.
on the inside. Show takes it on the inside, making his way into the left-hand corner. And he just wants to take away and make a gap out of that situation.
That was an epic pass.
They're still battling it out there, and I don't believe Brian Dillard. He's not gonna let him run away. He really isn't. He's a very experienced rider, but Show, he's got that next level speed. Anytime he gets onto a straight, he is gone.
Let's also keep in mind this is not the final. So keeping a little in the gas tank is a smart move. These riders don't have to come in first. They're going to move on. It does help with the pole position slightly. But with that said, keeping a little in the gas tank is a strategic move.
There we go. So that's another aspect I don't think people think about, is being able to elongate yourself throughout the whole experience for the competition here. Show Scott takes the first place position.
Show Scott in first, followed by Brian Dillard. And we've got Sam Clegg running through the checkered flag for a third place position finish with 1 minute, 35 seconds. In fourth place, we have Justin Lee, and coming up in fifth place, Vince Ramirez.
He's waving. What a nice guy.
We want to thank you for joining us for the TEF1 races. You have caught us right in the middle of the EUC Pro Heats. It has been some epic battles out here at the K1 Circuit Track in Winchester, California. Anything surprise you yet today there, Brett?
The amount of safe riding that we've had is, it's great to see it. And I don't want to say that I expected a couple of falls and stuff like that, but I think I'm thoroughly enjoying how professional you're really, like, we're very fortunate to have in front of you on the screen here to get a bird's eye view of this track and just to see how beautifully these guys are and women are making their way through this track. It's really great to see.
Yeah, I am also surprised. I thought for sure with these straightaways that we'd have some riders that were really getting on it, really calling for more than the wheels could deliver, but we haven't seen that. And that may just be a testament to the fact that we are in the heats now, and we may see some crashes, hopefully not. Of course, we don't like to see that, but these riders are riding well within their limits and well within the track limits, and it's a beautiful thing because this is the premier event that we have seen at a race course of this caliber.
Now, don't get us wrong at home, though. Like, it's not like these people are holding back. When they came around the start-finish here, we've heard several beeping wheels as they've come across here. And to explain that again, could mean they cut out. So they're right on the edge of these machines. They're not holding back. But it's really, I think it's showing the professionalism of these riders out on the track here.
All right, folks, we are getting into our fourth EUC Pro Heat. For this race, we have Night Rider Aaron Doria, Team E-Wheels rider Roger Jolly, James Darnell, Songhai Smith, and Nat Nguyen facing off in this EUC Pro Heat.
See on your screen there, they are getting lined up and ready to go, and there's the green. Off they go. We'll see who's in first. Looks like Doria in first with a Roger Hajali short behind, very, very right behind them. So we got the two E-Wheels riders up front with those white jerseys as they're making their way around. And I believe we have Doria out front and Roger Hajali close on their heels. Now, these guys practice together just like this. Very familiar with this.
Yeah, that's a correction. Aaron Doria, Team E-Wheels, as well as Roger Jolly. These racers often head out to AVS and do practice at Apple Valley Speedway. So it is no surprise that they are out front here at TEF1 from K1 Racetrack in Winchester, California.
Well, they're making their way into that hairpin there, trying to see the lines that they're taking, seeing how strategic they're being about it. Some very, very experienced riders here. Very curious to see how they're going to make these decisions and make their way through this track.
And Roger Jolly, somewhat of a mad scientist when it comes to EUCs and EUC technology. He is always inventing new things for his wheels. And you know what's great about Roger is he shares it with the rest of the community. Most notably, the Roger Charger, which is a fast charger. So Roger Jolly, big shout out to him, a big supporter of the EUC community here in Southern California.
They're making their way down one of that last final stretches before they come into the home stretch. And they're making across the start finish now. They still got another lap left in them. And then one more after that, I believe. That was their first lap they completed, and the other racers are making their way through. got James Darnell making his way across the line, just beeping away. I hear some beeps out there.
Aaron Doria and Roger Jolly really setting the pace. Unfortunately, they don't grade on a curve here at K1 Circuit Track. So we have two of the fastest Team E-Wheels riders battling it out for first place in this EUC Pro Heat. Seems like Aaron Doria is just holding up a little bit as Roger speeds down that stretch. I think, you know, keeping a little bit in the can for these later races is not a bad idea. It's a strategic move.
Like you said, Seth, these are just heats. They just got to not be last, essentially. So for somebody in second to be pushing that extra harder just to get up to first, maybe not the move that they're looking for. Is a couple teammates here in first and second place. Maybe they understand that, and maybe they don't want to push past one another, saving it for the finals.
Aaron Doria putting in a lap time of 1 minute 34 seconds. Roger Jolly putting in a time of 1 minute 35 seconds. So Aaron Doria out in front. Roger Jolly is drafting behind him.
He's got something in his hand there with a cord coming up to it. These could be many different things. It could be an extra readout for him.
Maybe some nitrous boost.
A nitrous button, why not? Maybe a little risky. Got some beeping wheels as they make their way across the start-finish here.
Yeah, James. I actually was talking to James a little bit before the race today. He wasn't even sure if he was going to race because he said his wheel was feeling a little bit weird and a little bit wobbly. So it's a little bit of a surprise to see James Darnell out here. Typically, you'll find him on dirt, along with his son, Zach Darnell. They like to ride a lot of off-road trails.
Yeah, we got these exciting UC riders out here, off-road, on-road, but as they make their way to that final corner, they're going to come to that last stretch, and we're going to see who is first and second for this heat of EUCs.
Checkered flag is out as Aaron Doria crosses the finish line with a 1 minute and 33 second lap time.
In second place, I believe we had a Roger Hajali.
Oh, correction. Roger Jolly with a 1 minute 32 second lap time, and Aaron Doria with a 1 minute 33 second, a difference of a mere 1.2 seconds.
Wow, look at that.
Everett Burgess now crossing the finish line as we conclude this fourth EUC Pro Heat.
Hey, would you mind, Seth? I'm kind of feeling a little bit chilly. I got a lazy rolling jacket. Should I put that on?
Speaking of lazy rolling, we want to give a big shout out to Lazy Rolling for sponsoring the live stream. You can head on over to lazyrolling.com and get armored. Thank you for joining us here from TEF1 at K1 Circuit. I am one of your hosts, Seth Johnson. I am joined by the illustrious Brett Brownlee.
Thank you.
And we are Amped Electric Games, bringing you this commentary live. Amped Electric Games, the voice of electric sports. And we've just concluded our 4th EUC Pro Heat, heading into our 5th EUC Pro Heat.